What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharpe, and welcome to the 7th edition of the hashtag How to Relationship Podcast. I, of course, am your modest host. Joining me, of course, is the lovely and talented Devon. How you doing tonight?
Hey, babe, I'm really good. How are you?
Doing real good. We've got a few guests, very esteemed guests who are going to help us with tonight's topic. So let's go ahead and introduce them now. First up is Michelle. Michelle, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here.
Hey, everybody. My name is Michelle Kenan. I'm also known as the Have It All Queen, and I'm a relationship expert that focuses on masculine and feminine energetic dynamics. And my specialty is for high achieving women that want to step into their next level of success by rekindling the flame of seduction and love in their relationship with their man.
Okay, very good. I like the way that sounds. If you notice the heels that Devon is wearing, looks like she's trying to rekindle something going on. I'm not sure if you intended on walking in those, but I guess we'll see here in a little bit.
These ensure that I don't have to use a restroom.
Very, very true. Yes, yeah, you're not going anywhere in those. So if you try to run away, you're not getting anywhere.
Definitely not.
Next up is Danielle. Danielle, introduce yourself to everyone on the panel.
All right, I'm Danielle Boer. I do stand-up comedy. I have a podcast as well.
Okay.
And it's called Authentic Points of View. And I just speak to everybody, men and women, actually, about a lot of different topics. So I love topics about relationships and stuff like that. So I'm really excited.
Cool. Wow. A stand-up comedian. So real quick, I've heard that the two toughest things that a person can ever do, aside from maybe going to war or childbirth, is being a professional fighter and being a stand-up comedian. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I've never been a professional fighter, but no, yeah, I think it is. And to be honest, I talk about it a lot on my podcast and with different people that I think it's harder for females sometimes too, because men and women think different. And so, yeah, it's a male dominated field. And so lots of men don't find what the women have to say very funny most of the time, unless they're talking about raunchy stuff. And then the men love it.
Yes, of course. Yes. We have dirty minds. That is the way the creator created us. Last but certainly not least is Jury Love. Jury, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jury Love. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm a musician. I'm a journalist. I am a single mom too, and I published my book called A Gift from Adversity, and I do have a podcast talking about adversity. I'm a survivor of child sex abuse, domestic violence, homelessness, bullying, and I'm trying to advocate all these issues as well.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you might have the mental makeup of a professional fighter at this point, given all that you've been through. Ladies, thank you guys very, very much for joining us on tonight's podcast. This will last for about an hour, unless the things go a little bit longer. Typically they don't, but we'll try to get you guys out of here in about an hour. So the question for the panel, we're going to start with Michelle, because you are, of course, a relationship expert. Does a woman's partner count matter to men?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of all men or any men, but I did talk to my husband about this before we went live tonight to get a man's point of view. So I'll share both. From his perspective, what he said is, when it comes to pride and to ego, like, hell yeah, it could matter to a lot of men. Which is fine. I think whatever matters to each person, like whatever floats your boat, whatever is most important to you, like, okay, that's fine. For me, and someone that is minded towards the future, like, I would rather be thinking, like, instead of looking backwards at what happened in the past, like, where are we going? And so if a man or a woman was going to look at partner count, I think that's like a backwards looking thing, and I would want to be with a partner that has a vision for the future and what they want to build together. So anyone that's too minded about what happened in the past, that might be an impediment to like making their millions or building their legacy or like doing whatever they want in their life. And I think a lot of people do that. They get stuck on old stories or like things that happened before they were in the picture, and it can really get in the way.
Very good. Okay, Danielle, what are your thoughts on this? Should a woman's body count, partner count, men she's had sex with, I guess to be specific, Does it matter to men? And I guess a better question, let me add another question. Should it matter to men?
So I think I talk to a lot of men and I listen to men. And so I feel like it does, but it depends on how they value the woman. So for instance, if it's just a fling or like a side chick, or if I could say that, or like somebody on the side that they don't, or like a one night stand, they're not going to care, I don't think, how many partners you've had. But if it's somebody that they want to be with and build a relationship with and possibly settle down with, I think that that makes a difference. And I think that they probably do care. And I've listened to men, even the one I'm with right now, and he said that, like, but it's not, I think they look at it different, because I think men and women look at stuff as like sex to women is more emotional, I think.
Yes.
And men could be just like, whatever, it's fun, it's Friday, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. So that's my opinion. But
yeah, I say this all the time. Sex for men is like taking a piss or shaking a hand. It is literally just an act. Now, I will say this. I remember the very first girl I ever had sex with, I was in love with her. I was going to marry her because that's the way every man feels about the first woman he ever has sex with. Yes, of course. The way this works is, I mean, when you're inexperienced, especially sexually as a man, yes, you're going to get emotionally involved. But I didn't
think men were like that. I thought that was more women are supposed to be the ones who fall in love with the first person that they've been with.
Yeah.
Men are kind of like the ones that it's like, let's just get this over with so I can say I did it.
Let me explain. You're right to an extent. As far, and I'm not a scientist, but and we're going to come to jury here in just a second, but as far as pair bonding and I guess the compartmentalization of sex, the older and more experienced a man becomes sexually, the more he is able to compartmentalize sex from emotion. Women can also compartmentalize sex from emotion, but it takes you guys a lot longer. So for example, it took me, I don't know, maybe 10 girls to finally say, okay, sex is just sex. But for women, it could take dozens, sometimes even hundreds of guys. Anytime you meet a woman who says, sex is just sex for me, she probably is very, very experienced in the bedroom, because sex is a lot more emotional for men.
Yeah, I think that you're right in a sense. I think that a lot of women think that they can compartmentalize it and say that they can.
Oh yeah, of course.
But
they never can. Yeah.
But they end up getting caught up in it anyway.
Yes.
Yes. So, and also, I don't think that women realize that if they can do that, it's not an attractive feature to other men.
Not at all.
So yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Do you think that? Do you think most men, like, they fall in love through sex?
No, and we're going to come to jury here in a second. This is actually a very good question. We love how can I say, we love men and women, clearly we love differently. But again, we can't, like, if a man falls in love because of sex, he is clearly inexperienced sexually.
Okay.
Because that's what he's putting the focal point on. But again, the older a man becomes and the more experienced sexually he becomes, he begins to realize, okay, sex is not as emotional for me as it is for women. And I can now compartmentalize this. And just like you said, any woman and women love to say all the time, well, I can separate the vagina from the feels. They would like to be able to do that, but it's almost impossible if they have a notch count under 50. It just doesn't work that way.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Do you think that it's the number of sexual partners that makes a woman be able to compartmentalize it, or do you think it's other experiences in her life that allow her to basically disassociate mentally?
Other experiences like what?
Just trauma, abuse, post-traumatic stress.
Well, okay, now those are very real, but those are the outlier situations. What we're going to talk. What, you don't think it's out? What, you think a lot of women have? What are we talking about here?
Almost every woman out there has a story or some past trauma or something like that.
A story or past trauma. Jury has real past trauma.
Right.
We're talking about modern women. How many false rape accusations are out there? How many women say, well, something sexually happened to me, blah, but they can openly just talk about it all the time to anyone who will listen.
No, but if you get a woman one-on-one, woman to woman, she's not trying to prove anything. She's not trying to like they almost all women have a harrowing story here or there of things that they've been through in life. No one gets through life unscathed.
You're right, but you're going macro with a micro incident.
Okay.
If one thing, now, don't get me wrong, people are emotionally resilient. If something bad happens to you, then yeah, that can scar you for life. But relative to the number of people in the world, that's the minority. I mean, and listen, we all know human trafficking and all that. We all know that stuff matters. What we're discussing is the average rank and file woman compared to the average rank and file man. Obviously, if someone has been through what Jury's been through, yes, there are going to be some issues there.
Yeah,
but we're talking.
See what she has to say.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, yes. So, Jury, where are your? So Devon talked about emotional trauma, sexual trauma, things of that nature. Clearly, things that you've been through. How do you think that factors into the body count and notch count discussion?
So this is a very deep issue for me. And to be honest with you, the man who cares about how many relationship or sexual partner the woman had, like if they care, I think that's really shallow. Because in my case, I was sexually abused by my father, my uncles. From age 4 to 13, I escaped from my father. He was physically abused as well. And then I got kicked out from my mom when I was 18 because there was no mental health talk. There's no PTSD. I had no idea what sexual abuse was or PTSD was until I was 22 when I came to America. So there was a lot of undiscussed taboo things. So to me, like I try to fill this void and then take the validation by sleeping with a lot of men. So I end up having like sex addiction. So if somebody comes to me, oh, how many men did you sleep with? The answer is maybe a lot, but then there's a solid reason why. And then I'm a journalist and I've covered maybe 400 stories, including sex trafficking, sexual assault. And then a lot of times it's called corrective experience that we do as a survivor of child sex abuse or sexual assault or sex trafficking, that I think there's a solid reasons why we do this. And if the men care, like the numbers of men I slept with due to my trauma, then I would say that man is not for me or for anyone. And then to be honest with you, I think psychologically, men has egos and like a lot of pride, like, kind of obsessed with a woman sometimes, like, especially when you have sex, then after that, they became very obsessive. And then it's almost like a possession type of mentality, which I hate. So sometimes it's rather that I have a good relationship without a sex. And then maybe like, they will value me more. So I would say if men cares those issues, there are reasons, and I can hide. I can say, oh, I never slept with anyone, or I slept with tons. And it really matters to me that how men treat women, regardless of their background.
Okay, yeah, you make a very good point about any woman who has been through some sort of sexual trauma. And let me actually just come back to Jury. Let me and I know I didn't want to go in this direction, and I guess hopefully the YouTube gods won't kill us for this. But because I always teach men in my circle and in my focus groups that you have to avoid women who have been through sexual trauma. And the reason I say that is because the mental damage, the PTSD, the trauma, it's irreparable. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't want to say what I have in my mind right now, but it makes me very angry.
Please do. No, go ahead.
Screw them. They're emotionally immature if they judge me like that. And I actually had a conversation with somebody who said some man goes after women who are daddy issues, and then they're easy to control. You just give them attention and a little bit of love, and then they're all yours or something. I'm like, screw that. Like, I'm not going to ever talk to you. And, it's just disgusting to me that if they have shallow understanding of what had really happened to you.
Okay. Now, now here's the thing. Back in my Vegas player days, anytime a girl told me that she had daddy issues, I'm like, I'm getting laid tonight, because I know that it is far more likely for her to give it up than it is with a woman without daddy issues. What say you, Devon? We'll go around the panel.
I like what she said about like corrective psychology. It's almost like the women are trying to associate the bad experiences by covering them up with good experiences.
Mhm.
So it's almost like you overcorrect by saying, okay, I had this bad sexual experience, let me go ahead and pile on some good ones, or some that are on my terms, or and that's probably why they act out a little bit more than why you like what you would say. It's easier. They're easier.
Yes. Whoa. Hang on a second. You just changed the goalpost.
Okay.
I said daddy issues. I wasn't talking about, I'm just to be clear. I have never told guys, hey, if she has sexual trauma, no. I'm serious. I always tell men to steer and it's not that women with sexual trauma are bad people. It's just that the vast majority of them, and present company excluded, jury, you've overcome, you've done well. But women, most women are not going to be able to come out of that and do what jury has done. Most women act out by selling their bodies, selling drugs, doing drugs, alcohol, drinking, things of that nature. And a man who is inexperienced with women, if he runs up on a woman like that and doesn't know how to handle her, she could potentially turn his life upside down if she's not emotionally mature enough to deal with it.
I agree.
Okay.
It's anyone with, like with anything in life, if you're not going to carry that baggage, you got to do the work to get rid of it.
Sure.
So, if you're bringing along old stuff, no matter what it is, I think it's going to be damaging to your value in a relationship.
Okay.
So, like, we're specifically talking about value in a relationship, not necessarily just dating or
well, yes. If in terms of and we're going to come to Michelle here in just a second. I have a really good question for you. In terms of, now there's clearly a difference. There's short-term, quote unquote, short-term relationships, aka one night stands. I guess we can kind of try to sugarcoat it a little bit. Okay. Then we have the midterm relationships, the fuck buddy arrangements, the friends with benefits, and a lot of those sometimes turn into long-term relationships. We can talk about all of them. So for short-term relationships, as far as I'm concerned, and look, and like I said, I love the discourse. I like the fact that jury got upset with what I said. That's perfectly fine. We can all be respectful. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're a man and you're looking for sexual experience, the higher the body count, the better. But if you are looking for a woman to have a relationship with, the lower the body count, the better. To me, it makes a huge difference. And for anyone, and I'll come to jury here in just a second. But Michelle, what are your thoughts on men like myself? And this is what I endorse 100%. If you're looking for short-term relationships, the higher the body count, the better. If you're looking for a long-term relationship, the lower the body count, the better. What do you say to guys like me?
Okay. I mean, I don't have a controversial answer. Like, you shouldn't fight somebody like to change their belief in order to accept you or want to be with you. So like, if that's something that, like, I think with a lot of internet culture, it's about like, I'm right. No, I'm right. And it's like, if you're going to look at your relationship, like, choose somebody that wants to choose you back, regardless of what you've been through or where you're at. And so if you're already starting with somebody that has a very specific view that is like making you out to be not the right one, then like it would be in your own best interest to just walk on by. There's billions of people out there that think billions of different things. And for some of them they care, and for some of them they don't. But I actually wanted to speak to what you guys were talking about before it veered a bit into the trauma conversation. I really wanted to insert in the conversation. You guys were talking about women that could like disassociate emotions from sex. And what's so interesting about that is, I'm an expert in masculine and feminine energetic dynamics. And the feminine, I'm not only talking about females, let's talk about feminine energy. It is emotional. Like, that's the nature of the feminine. And so many women have been conditioned to be operating in their masculine. And it's been like celebrated, that you can disconnect your emotions from sex, or that, liberation means, having as much sex as possible with whoever. And like, there's a way that so many women, whether they've been through big T trauma or little T trauma, right? We're human beings. We've all been through some kind of trauma. Like, we've learned that it's we've been in our masculine, which is about getting stuff done instead of being in the fields, right? And that's been celebrated in women, but I feel like that's causing so many issues for so many men and women too. It's important for women to be connected to their feelings, especially when it's around sex. And so I think that it's not only because of trauma, but in how we've been conditioned in society to deal with sex. Sure. And I think that's a really big epidemic also.
Well, okay, so let me come to Danielle and then to Jury with this. So Jury said any man that concerns himself, and we're not talking about sexual trauma here. Sexual trauma, like I said,
it's another conversation.
That's a different conversation, and we can have that later on. But Jury said any man who pays attention to a woman's body count or disqualifies a woman for a relationship because of a high body count, that is shallow. I strongly disagree. And the reason for this, and I'll get Danielle and Jury's thoughts on this. The reason for this is because, and I'll make an analogy, and I know a lot of people hate when we compare men and women to objects, but banks lend money to people who have good credit. Their credit history dictates how much money they will get from the bank, if any at all. A person's credit history tells a lot about what a person's credit future will be. Well, in most cases, a woman's sexual past is usually a pretty good indicator of her sexual future. Does this mean that all women with high body counts will cheat on their mates in a relationship? Of course not. But it's a pretty good indicator that she is far more likely to cheat in a relationship than a woman with a low body count. So if I'm going to be looked at as shallow, no, that's just me being a man. That is my natural. That is my genetic. This is my genetic. My genetic predisposition to be repulsed by women who have indiscriminately slept with hordes of men. And again, we're not talking about sexual trauma here. We're talking about willfully and wantonly sleeping around, being sexually irresponsible. Right. That's on my side. Nobody tells women that they're shallow for wanting a guy who is over 6 feet tall, has six-pack abs, makes X amount of money. But when men say, hey, you know what? If a woman has a high body count, you got to be careful. I wouldn't commit to her because she probably won't make a very good girlfriend as far as the fidelity is concerned. So Danielle, let me get your thoughts on what I just said. What do you think about that?
Well, I have a lot of opinions. So, okay, I have a question though. Sure. Can you what in the world, what's the number that's the cutoff for a high body count? Like, what is the number? If it's above what? Like
3.
Above 3 is a high body count? What?
Yes. Yeah, that is, and the reason why I'm sorry.
If you're 40 years old, three people max for you. Like
I'm 45. Well, I'm 45 years old. Number one, but you're talking about 40. Oh, you're 40 years old. With 3 would be a high body count. Well, are you married? Yes or no?
I am divorced.
Okay. All right. Well, the deal is if I met a 40-year-old woman, you know what? As a matter of fact, I'll use myself as an example. Devon, I met Devon when you were 39. Yeah, well, somewhere around there. Who knows? We're not keeping count anymore. And Devon never told me, hey, I've slept with XYZ number of men, because that's not something I want to know. Based on her habits and proclivities that she had when we first met, led me to make the correct assumption that she did indeed have a high body count. At which point I said, okay, there are certain measures that I need to take to make sure that this woman does not end up screwing me over. So if I met Devon at the age of 39 and she had only had sex with 3 men at that point, and I actually believed it, then I'm like, okay, that would be a possibility. But what you also have to understand is that the age definitely matters, but the older a woman gets, the higher body count she has. So as far as a body count is concerned, I think it's relative to their age. So if I meet a woman who's 40 years old who's told me that she slept with 10 men, I'm probably not going to believe her, but I'm never going to find out anyway.
So, okay. So my opinion is
what?
I feel like I don't know. It's like, I understand, because that's what I said when you asked me the question. I understand from a man's point of view because I've listened to men, but I don't believe I'm not a cheater. I've never cheated. I actually was in my marriage. I was getting cheated on for 3.5 years of my marriage, and I tried, and then it just got to the point where I was like, whoop, nope, can't deal with it anymore. It wasn't fair to the kids or me. So, but I have not cheated. And I've been in domestic violence relationship, did not cheat. And so, so to me, I feel like values, no matter what your body count is, you could still not cheat. You know, I see what you're saying.
Sure,
I understand what you're saying, that you feel like if a woman has had so many partners, then they're going to want that, and that's going to be their norm. But that's not all the time true. So I'm just speaking from my perspective of, like, that's not how my character is. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it has to do with morals and characters. And if you believe in a relationship, you wouldn't cheat even if you have a high body count. That's just my opinion.
Okay, very good. My mouse doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there we are. There we are. Jury, what are your thoughts on guys like me who say, hey, the higher a body count a woman has, the less likely she is to be sexually faithful in a relationship?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So if your mother rapes you, and then if you have sex addiction due to your sexual trauma and your body count is high, and if somebody like, when some woman come, tells you like, no, oh, you have higher body count, screw you, I'm not gonna date you. But you have solid reason. Yeah. What would you say to that woman?
Men and women are different, Jury. A man with a high body count is sexually attractive. A woman with a high body count is sexually attractive for short term. This is why virginal women with low body counts are scooped up off the market quicker than women with presumed high body counts. So a man who has slept with 50 women is far more attractive than a woman who has slept with 50 men. Agree or disagree? You don't agree? So you're telling, so let me ask you a question. Would you be more, well, I don't know. This is kind of, I'll go around the panel here. Just real quick. One word answer. Michelle, would you be more attracted to a virginal man? Would you be more attracted to a 40-year-old virgin or a 40-year-old man with a 40 body count?
I know why you're asking this question, though. You want to make a point, but it's
answer the question. Uh-huh.
No, but I don't mind. Whatever. Fuck. Oh, can we curse on this show? I don't know if you're allowed.
Yes, of course. Yeah, please.
All right, so fuck it. Yeah, of course it would be somebody that knows what they're doing in bed. I don't want to have to teach them what to do.
Of course. Okay, I'll come right back to you, Danielle. Would you rather have sex? Which is more sexually attractive, a 40-year-old virgin or a 40-year-old man with a 40 body count?
Okay, the guy that knows what he's doing. Got it.
Okay. So now let me ask Jury, who do you find more attractive, the 40-year-old virgin or the 40-year-old man with a 40 body count? And then you can elaborate.
I have to say not the virgin one.
Okay. All right. Very good. Excellent. And the reason I asked that question, that wasn't to play gotcha, but I did that to illustrate the fact that men and women, not only are men and women different biologically, we all know that men and women are different biologically. Your Devon's niece, Olivia, she's about to be 15 years old. You guys know how teenage girls are. And she comes with all of the, like, there's this kid at school. His name is Chris. And all the girls like him, and he's such an asshole and blah, 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 blah. But she continues to talk about this kid, right? There was another kid that she kind of had a crush on when she was, I think, in 6th grade. I forgot what his name was, but he was kind of a nerdy kid. Well, now she's not really attracted to that kid. The point is that men and women view sex differently. Sex is very, very easy for women to come by. And this is the grand point. Sex is easy for women. You guys can go out and have sex. It's easier than literally breathing. Men, it's very, very difficult for even the highest value men to go out and get laid on a consistent basis. This is why women with high body counts, and it's funny, the first thing that women call each other when they don't like each other, well, she's a slut, I bet she's a hoe, blah, 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 blah. Right. So let me ask Michelle, why do you think women call each other sluts or hoes if they just don't like them for whatever reason? But then we sit here and say, hey, look, if you're concerned about a woman's body count, then you're kind of shallow.
I'm telling you, women are seeped in the culture of masculine energy. And so there's so much mirroring. There's so much, right? Like at the heart, the feminine isn't competitive, right? Like right. Women are, I want to say the word indoctrinated is in my mind. Like we're doing so many tactics and so many like mirroring language and competition, the way that we see men do it. Like so many women are in their masculine and that's why it's, you know, a lot. And again, I'm generalizing right now. So
yeah, we don't talk in generalities.
Right? Yeah, exactly. 100%. This is not everyone, you know, and of course, different ages and, you know, different places, whatever. But like, so many women are operating in their masculine energy when it comes to sex, and they're divorced from like the, you know, you're letting someone in your body, you know, like it is a whole different experience between men and women. And that's why I'm gonna keep talking about that through this conversation.
No, I got you. Devon, what you got?
The hookup culture is a byproduct of feminism. Is that what you're saying?
Is that what you said, Michelle? Did you indirectly say the hookup culture was a byproduct of feminism?
Please don't send any feminists.
Oh my God! Oh no! Okay. All right. Okay. No problem. Go ahead.
It almost seems that it's not necessarily this number of sexual partners that's damaging for women when it comes to long-term relationships, family life, things like that. Mm-hmm. It's almost the mindset that feminism has brought in, where you're always competing, always one-upping, always, you know, like the masculine mindset that women are told to operate in.
Okay. Gotcha. So yeah.
In a sense, that really makes you more unattractive for a long-term relationship than anything else.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I think is really, you know, so much here. Like most women, we're not raised, you know, you get sex ed in school if you're lucky in this country. You get sex ed, like, but the sex ed that you get, like, it's just the anatomy, if that, you know, like most women don't understand that every man you're with leaves an imprint in your body, like puts their energy in your body. Most women don't understand this especially not when they're young, and their mothers don't know, you know, they're not telling them those things too. And that's why I feel really passionate about making this part of the conversation, you know, like a lot of women have been taught, right? Like with the masculine culture, whatever, no big deal. Like sex, who cares? You know, it's everywhere, but it is a big deal, you know, and there's a difference, right, between having to be a virgin and pure. I'm not in that camp either, but like understanding like the importance of it and the sovereignty of your body and respecting yourself.
Well said.
Nice.
Danielle, so I don't want to misquote Michelle, but Michelle used the word indoctrinated, but I'm not going to use it the way she presumably used, because I don't know how she used it. But let me ask you this. Do you think that the repulsion for relationships with women with a high body count, do you think that people who are repulsed by women who have slept with hordes of men, do you think that's indoctrinated, or do you think that's a natural response?
Well, here's the thing. I feel like that's just, I don't know. Like she said, I think that's just how men, you guys think different than us. So that's that's just the nature, I guess. I don't know if it's indoctrinated, but that's the nature of a man. And I feel like, well, like you just explained it, never heard it been explained like that. But like for women to be like, oh, you can't trust her because she's been with a lot of men. I don't know. I just feel like, I guess men are just programmed differently. And so they feel like it's more of a, I don't know. Cause you have to this is what I was told by a man.
Okay.
You have to let a man, and not in the trauma situation. So I'm sorry, jury, but in a, you know, mutual situation where you're going to have sex with someone, you have to let the man. So meaning like you have to be undressed and allow the man to go in. This is very deep, but inside you. So meaning like it's more it means more to the women per se in a man's perspective than a man, because a man's just like, okay, whatever. But the woman has to, it's more emotional and everything connective to the woman, like kind of like she's saying, because you are, the man is in, or that's very.
No, I understand what you're saying. The woman is the one being. No, and you're trying. I understand, and I appreciate you trying to dance around it so you don't get us in trouble. But I understand what you're saying. The woman is the one being penetrated, right? She's the one that the fluids go into. That has a much more profound effect than a man sticking basically his sex organ into a woman's body. That among many other reasons is why sex presumably means a lot more to women than men. Jury, what do you think of the so what do you think of what we were just discussing about women being able to come by sex very easily, men not being able to come by it so much? But do you think it's indoctrinated in men to look upon women with high body counts with disgust for long-term relationships, or do you think it's something we've been taught?
What is indoctrinating?
Indoctrinate means almost like brainwashed. It's almost like the television and media. Hey, you can't like women with high body counts. You see it on your phone. You see it on social media,
like
movies.
If she sleeps with a lot of guys, she's worthless.
Yes, right. Well, what she wanted to know what indoctrinated mean, and that basically subliminal messaging is what I was talking about. Yeah,
got it. Thank you so much for the explanation.
Of course.
So I think a lot of media has to do something, but also culturally, say I'm from Japan and I was taught very differently than American culture.
Okay.
Only came here when I was 22 and I'm 46 now, but the first half of my life, like as a woman, we were taught to devote ourselves to men. And then this is not the media or bias, it's a deep cultural 4,000 years of Dan Son Johi, which is Dan is man and Son is respect and Jo is woman and he is disrespect. So men always comes first. So I don't walk in front of men ever. And then men won't open the door for women. And we have a completely different man-dominant culture.
Of course.
So I was raised in that. So I think whatever the bias you guys have in America, it's completely different than Japan. So like as a woman, like say for instance, my aunt was not allowed to go to high school, but instead she was forced to go to kimono making school or cooking school to be a best woman, best wife. And it's just a completely different culture, like a Middle Eastern country, African country. Like we are so submissive. We have to devote. There's a word called tsukusu, which means devotion. So whatever men say, so goes. And so there was no fight about that. So I think it's very different topic that you guys are talking about. So I don't think in Japan we have these biases of body counts or whatsoever, but more of penetrating the cultural deep concept of man is superior and a woman's worthless.
You speak very good English for someone who's only lived in America half your life. I got to give you props for that. Jay Blaze with the $2 super chat says, "Women with high body counts, the higher the chance the kid is not yours." Michelle, agree or disagree?
That's ridiculous because, I mean, a high body count is the past, right? If you're with somebody in a monogamous relationship, that doesn't necessarily have to do anything. Like the way that you made that connection between high body count and cheating, that sort of seemed out of like left field. I don't know where that.
No, listen, not only do I agree with what Jay Blaze said, I will double down on the high body count and the promiscuity. And the reason why there is a direct link between a high body count and promiscuity is because a woman with a high body count is promiscuous, and a woman with a promiscuous past I'm not saying that guarantees anything. And listen, my mother, I'll use my mother as an example. She is an outlier situation. She was the virgin bride. She was my father was her first and only blah, blah, blah. My mother cheated on my husband with impunity, had 2 abortions, separated from him twice, and all this other kind of stuff. My mother, bless her heart, I love her to death, but she became a super hoe, right? And she was the virgin bride. So clearly that is the outlier situation. However, it would be disingenuous of me to advise a good friend of mine or my brother, okay, there are 2 women, okay? One woman has slept with 50 guys, confirmed. The other woman has slept with 2 guys. Who do you who would you advise your son to be in a relationship with? A woman with a 50 body count or a woman with a 2 body count?
You know what I'm responding to is this energy that there's a right way and a wrong way, or there's like the good and the bad. You know, what it is what it is. And if it matters to you, then okay, you know, like I think that's the energy that I'm responding to. And to speak a little bit to what Jury was saying, where in where she comes from, the culture is different. Like, let's be real. This is a Christian country, like,
right.
and that's where a lot of the morals and the ideology comes from. And
so what you're saying, let me just make sure, and I'll let you respond. So what you're saying is that the ideology and the Judeo-Christian background that this country was founded on is the reason why men look upon women with high body counts as not good candidates for long-term relationships, motherhood, marriage, et cetera, et cetera.
Is it the reason? I don't know. I feel
here's my.
I'll say this. I feel like in this country, we swing pendulums from one extreme to another extreme, like who's elected to office and like.
Oh my God! Don't get me started. But
whatever. I don't give. That's not the point. But
right.
It's like,
Carter.
You know what I mean? There's like that huge divide, and so I feel like there's a lot of. From the feminist movement, let's just say like that there's a lot of swinging in the other direction that's like contra to that. And I just think that where we're at is a lot of struggle of trying to like parse what works. And I think a lot of men are struggling with women. And I think a lot of women are struggling with men too. Like, is there one reason? I mean, maybe that one reason is just like total misunderstanding, because I feel like if I did find a reason, and we can poke holes in all this as much as you guys want to, because I'm having a lot of fun in this conversation. It's that I think for a lot of time we were taught that we're the same.
Right.
We're not the same at all. Like how we think is the same, how we process information is the same, how we relate to our emotions. Like nothing is the same, And so I think that's the issue that we're sort of dismantling ourselves from, where we're like, okay, we're not the same. And there's all these like hidden ways that we've been acting the same or taught to act like everything's cool when it's not cool, or like, and that's sort of what we're all trying to figure out right now. But it's just the right way or the wrong way. That's the part that I just like don't respond to, because you know what, like it's each their own.
Okay. No, I totally get it. And I would advise any man who comes to me for advice, I would strongly advise, hey, listen, you can do whatever you want, but just like Geeky Anomaly says in the chat, he said, it's not good or bad. It's about maximizing the probabilities of relationship and family success. And to that end, this is why I advise men, if a woman has a high body count, I'm not saying don't get in a relationship with her. Just understand that the chances increase pretty substantially that she is probably going to have, there's probably going to be some sort of infidelity. I would also respond to you, say, hey, look, when two people are in a monogamous relationship, he doesn't have to worry about paternity. What is it like? What is it? How many cases of paternity fraud do we have here in the United States? How many do we not know about? There are countless, and I'm not saying that this is the norm, but it happens enough for men to be concerned about it. And so one of the few metrics that men have, one of the few ways that men can say, hey, look, this is how I'm going to discriminate one woman from another, is her body count. Now, no one's ever going to know what a woman's body count is, but I teach men to pick up on the behaviors that insinuate that she does have promiscuous proclivities. Danielle, let me ask you this, based on what Michelle said. She said that, listen, it's the Christianity, it's kind of the culture. Do you think that men are naturally deterred from women with high body counts for relationship, or do you think that's something that we're taught?
I just think you guys are, I don't know. It could be taught, like you said. There's this in the media, or now social media, internet, all this stuff, right, about like how women are, but this is what I want to say though. So women are so sexualized, right? So if you want to sell like beer, put some women in bikinis, right? Put them in bikinis, sit them on a car. Woohoo! You want to do a rap video, you do that, right? But the thing is, like, why? Okay, that's okay, but God forbid she sleep with 5 people. Now she has a high body count, but you guys want to look at her. You see what I'm saying? I feel like there's a double standard. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's fair. You want us to be.
You're right.
Yeah.
And to that, I would say life isn't fair. Nobody forces. Yeah. Listen, nobody forces these women Nobody forces these women to be on liquor ads. Nobody holds a gun to these women's heads to make them be in rap videos. And 11 times out of 10 on social media, women objectify themselves. And a lot of women, I'm not saying that you did this, Danielle, and I'll come to jury with this. A lot of women say, well, if not for men being thirsty and being so sexualized and with all the likes, then women wouldn't do this. Well, that would be like me getting pulled over by the cops, having 2 keys of dope in my trunk, the cop saying, hey, Mr. Sharpe, you know, you're going, well, wait, you can't take me to jail, because if there weren't drug addicts in the city of Miami, then I wouldn't have this dope. No, that argument's not going to work. Men will objectify women, but only after women objectify themselves first. Now, sometimes there are men out there who will objectify women who are wearing a nun's outfit. Those are clearly the outlier situations. But if a man looks at a woman with lustful eyes based on what she's wearing, then she's the one that brought that attention onto herself. Do you agree or disagree with that, Danielle? Then we'll go to jury.
I'm kind of mixed. Well, I'm kind of mixed. I have a daughter that's 9. I have 3 boys that are old, and then I have a little girl that's 9. So yes, if she wore that stuff, I would teach her no, because men. Okay. Because I would teach her no. That would bring attention to you. That's what I would teach her. But so I do agree with it. Just because I wouldn't want my daughter to wear Daisy Dukes or anything like that, that shows my age.
Danielle, listen, 95% of the people watching have no idea what Daisy Dukes are, but we do.
Booty shorts.
I love the Daisy Dukes. Jury, what are your thoughts? Do you think that men are taught to look upon women with high body counts with disgust for long-term relationships, or do you think that's something that's natural?
I have a mixed feeling about it. And again, I think it's really depending on the individuals, and then how much the man is willing to learn the history of why the body counts are high for certain women. And I think it's kind of sad that you write off, cut off all these categories and then categorize women who may have, like myself, child sex abuse history or sexual assault history or rape. Because what I said, corrective experience and validation and filling the void, that contributes to the higher count of how many men. So I would say men should educate themselves and then really not have this bias or religion or media influence on them. However, one of the comment earlier was saying that women who had experienced the trauma, if they don't have the discipline or breaking the cycle and then not learning about say self-care, and then that's kind of dangerous, because I myself didn't know anything about it. And then I had to educate that. I had to do sex cleansing, and I have to really have my self-value evaluated. So I would say give a chance to these women who may have, higher counts body, and also respect that they are honest with you, and that counts more.
Let me ask you this, because I'm sorry. Somebody else had something?
No, I said you can lie that I'm virgin completely. Okay. I'll lie to your face, and that's more dangerous to me. Honest with you.
So let me ask you this. So you say, all right, give women with sexual trauma, real sexual trauma. And I'm not talking about I got drunk in college and slept with a guy I couldn't remember his name the next day. That's not sexual trauma. That's just you getting drunk and hooking up with a dude at a frat party. But for you to say, hey, you should give women with sexual trauma in their past a chance, how would you? Because, and it's not like I think that that people who go through this are bad people, but the average rank and file person, the average man in this country has very little experience with women, much less a woman with sexual trauma in their past. So how would you advise men? How would you advise men to deal with that? Because women with that kind of sexual trauma, a lot of them don't make it to your age. A lot of them really, they self-delete themselves, or they self 187 themselves. But how would you suggest men try to, because I don't have any, well, I probably have a little bit of experience with that. And I always hit the eject button because I saw certain behaviors and characteristics that said, okay, this woman's sexual trauma is going to make it very difficult for me to be in any kind of healthy relationship with her. So how would you suggest men actually do that? Because I'm at a loss. I have no idea.
I think there are stages of the victim and then survivor and an advocate. So there are 3 stages that you can judge. And if the woman is still in the victim stage of mind, maybe it's hard. And survivor mode still, but then advocate mode, which is like the last stage of how you understood the trauma and then moved on as a survivor and moved on as an advocate. And then I think that stage, if the person who survived the significant sexual trauma is, safe to deal with. And then I'm just being very, very detached with my emotion and my case, but being a journalist and then again advocating for so many cases in my career, that the pattern seems to be that more of the educational, like psychological effect and then validation. And nowadays we talk so much about mental health, and then normalizing the mental health is so important, crucial to our survival. And then I think it's not just women's job, but the man's job to not have a bias against them. And especially with somebody who's suffering with that higher body counts. So I would say just, be patient. And then if you identify those and that makes you feel threatened to your life, because I believe relationships should leverage your life, not sabotage. And that's what you're afraid of, that you don't want women with the higher body counts to sabotage your life. And so I would say, just learn together. And if you love that person, just do your research and then, be advocate for her.
Okay, let me ask. I'm going to give you a scenario, then I'll ask one last question to the panel as we round third and head for home. Let me give you a scenario, Judy. Let's just say that I were homeless, right? And I'm panhandling. People are giving me money on the street, whatever the case may be. But let's say somebody asks, what, Donovan, why are you homeless? Well, I mean, my mother and father were homeless. I was in and out of foster care. Got in a lot of trouble as a kid. I've never really known stability. So now I'm homeless and I'm broke. I've got a criminal record. I could probably get a job, but it's probably not going to be a job that I don't like. And I said to a woman, hey, you know what? Give a homeless guy with a criminal record a chance. That, to me, what would you say to someone who said that would be exactly the same as giving a woman with sexual trauma in her past a chance?
It's a great point. I think it depends on where the other partner's situation is. And then if the person is mature and then maybe financial stability and the resources, maybe they can leverage. But then if not, if you're in the same boat, like, if you're also homeless or if you're also in this, stage that is really unfixable, then I would say really try to avoid. So I think it depends.
Okay, very good. Last question for the panel as we round third and head for home. How many, now we don't have any children between us. Do any of you have any sons? I know Danielle said she has one. Michelle? Oh, okay, good, perfect. Okay, excellent. Okay, so Michelle, let me just pretend you have a son, just in dream world here. If your son comes to you and says, Mom, there are 2 girls that I'm thinking about dating. Your son is 24 years old. He's got his life together, et cetera, et cetera. There's one girl who challenges him. Well, I don't really want to say challenges, but one girl, she's very outgoing. She's very loving. She's super go-getter. But Mom, she's told me that she's had a lot of sexual experience. Like she said, it's a lot. She didn't want to tell me the number. But then there's a girl that I don't know that was homeschooled. And I don't know, this is just make-believe world. A girl that was homeschooled probably doesn't have too much sexual experience. Which of the 2 girls would you advise your son to pursue for a long-term relationship?
Well, we're entrepreneurs and we're legacy builders. And if it's just from those 2, it would be the one with more sexual experience, but not because of the sexual experience, because of the other things that you've mentioned. I mean, I'd have to meet them, because the things that you said about that she's warm and outgoing, I would just need to know, because like, I mean,
you make a very good point. I guess I should have said this earlier. All things being equal, let's just say there are two girls, same age, same experience, or not same experience, same age, same personality. One has a 50 body count and the other one is, I don't know, has had one, she's got a body count of 1. Which would you advise your son to pursue a long-term?
I think it also depends on my son, on the man, and what he, like, if this is a man that is on his mission and he wants somebody that's at home and that's only tending home, or is this a man that wants to build a dream and he wants a partner that's going to be out there in the world with him? So I'm sorry, I plead the fifth on this one, because who's this guy and what does he want to do with his life, and who's the partner that is going to help him do that? I think that's the most important thing to me.
Fair enough. Danielle, same scenario. 2 girls, all things being equal, they look the same, they sound the same. They're identical twins. They're identical twins, Casey and Kayla. Casey is the good girl, Kayla's the bad girl. Which one do you advise your son to pursue?
I think Michelle has hit the nail on the hammer, the head on the head. I don't know. She's talked about a lot. So I have boys, 21, 19, and a 16-year-old bonus son. I don't think about him dating people, that creeps me out. But my oldest ones, so my 21-year-old, they're different. So like she said, it depends on which one of my sons. One of my sons is wild as heck, and one of them is very calm. So I feel like the one that's very calm and more mature per se could be responsible with that person and be okay, but the other one is very wild. So it just depends on the situation. But I feel like, I mean, if they're exactly the same, I don't know. I guess I could say, if my son's 20 something, 50 is a lot of people. Now, for instance, if it was true and it was a lady that I knew, a young girl that had 50 partners, I probably would say no. I know that sounds sexist and ignorant as a female, but I probably would say, I
don't think it's sexist. I don't think it's sexist at all.
I mean, it just depends, because I feel like that's a lot for 20 something years old. That's my opinion, but
and see, that's your maternal instinct kicking in. You don't want a girl with a 50 lay count taking advantage of your kid, because if your son is in his 20s, chances are he probably has not slept with 50 women. But what do you have, Devon? I'm going to come to jury after this. What do you have, Devon?
I think more than anything, the high body count shows a lack of discipline, a lack of being basically poor decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And a lack of self-respect.
Yep.
And who wants someone to, if you don't respect yourself, you don't want your grandkids being raised by a person who has no self-respect.
Yeah.
So I think it's not necessarily, the fact that she slept with all these guys. A lot of times it's the character flaws that create that behavior.
Wow.
So,
and I think, and you make a very good point. And that this is, and all of this, what Devon just said, this all goes on in a man's hindbrain. We're not consciously thinking about this because it's happening in the background. But these are the things that go through our mind when we find out a woman has banged 50 guys. Okay, she's a bad decision maker. She probably didn't have too much respect for herself. She probably gets around. She's probably very flirtatious. Which, listen, it doesn't make her a bad person. It just makes her a bad prospect for a potentially long-term relationship.
There are some, like when we talked about how would you prefer a man with a 40-year-old virgin or a guy with a 40 body count?
Yeah, of course.
Most women will say they want the guy who has more experience because it's going to be a better sexual experience for them. But if we look at, and also not just that, they're thinking short-term, better sexual experience, long-term, don't want a guy who has no experience with women.
There you go.
Because if I have more experience than he does, he's going to be jealous and he's going to be a crazy, insecure person.
Let me stop you right there. No. Hold on. Before we go on to number 2, we've had this discussion before, and I disagree. It doesn't matter if a woman has more. Let's just say, and I don't know how many women I've slept with. It's a ridiculous number, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me how much more experience a woman has. Let's say I've banged 100 women, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, well, she's only banged 75 guys, so I think I can feel. I think no, hold on, no. But that's what I'm talking about. When a man looks upon a woman with I don't want to say with disgust, but when he avoids women with high body counts for long-term relationship prospects, what he's thinking about is what you talked about earlier. It has nothing to do with his experience. Men who are virginal don't want to wife up sluts. Men who have banged women around the world still don't want to wife up sluts. It is literally the same thing. It does not matter how much or little experience a man has. If a woman has a high body count, she is not as good a prospect as a woman with a lower body count.
Right, but if you just look at the point that if the man has less experience with women than the woman has men, it's a bad deal for both people. It's a bad deal for the woman. It's a bad deal for the man.
Yep. Oh, that makes sense. So basically the 40-year-old virgin with the woman who's got a 75 body count.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
She's not going to respect him because he doesn't know how to handle her.
Nope. Sure
and
doesn't.
Then she's going to think that he can't even get laid. And what is she even doing with him?
Yeah, right. This is the way women think, man. Jury, what are your, so let me give you the same scenario. Your son, there's two twins that they look alike. They sound alike. One twin has a 50 body count. One twin has a body count of 2. Which of those two women would you advise your son to pursue for a long-term relationship?
I would say listen to the intuition, but most importantly, even if you sleep with one person with STD, you get screwed. So demand the STD like test and then screen before you pursue. And then get the proof, because even if you sleep with 50 people or one person, you can catch these things.
Sure.
So, I would just educate that most.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Health and Healing with the $5 super chat also had another $5 super chat. Says, please be honest, women, all things being equal, none of you will choose the one with the higher body count for the son. Okay, so these people they're disagreeing with you. I'll go around the panel. Michelle, do you agree or disagree? Oh, please unmute yourself. Oh, that's okay.
Sorry about that. If what you guys are talking about, right, with inferences, because that's what you guys are doing, you're making assumptions based on, okay, and by the way, when you asked me this question, we didn't say 50 women and they're 20 years old. So there's more details emerging in this situation, right? But what that makes me think of is crazy sorority girl party. And I've never been part of that culture so that's someplace that's just not interesting for me. So if we're just going to look at inferences from that, I will agree with this comment. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Danielle, you actually were on board with it. And so was Jury. So I guess that was, well, never mind. I guess we almost had a universal agreement.
So I have a question for you.
Okay, here we go. This is we always end the show with a question for Donovan. Go ahead, please.
What is your take on sowing wild oats?
You mean men sleeping around?
Men or women? Do men and women have to sow their wild oats, so to speak? So
women can't sow their wild oats. They have vaginas, not penises.
Okay. I didn't know you needed a penis to sow.
Yes, you do need a penis to sow,
okay.
Devon. Yes, you do. Yeah, man. At the end of the day, I guess that was supposed to be funny. At the end of the day, I think we all know and understand that men and women are very, very different. And I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate your honesty, Jury. I appreciate your candor. It cannot be easy to talk about that on a podcast with over 175,000 combined subscribers. So we certainly appreciate that. Let's ladies, tell the people where they can find you. Give all your social links as well as your podcast. Michelle, lead us off.
Yeah, absolutely. You can Google me. You can Google my name, but it's easy to remember. I'm the Satisfied Wife. So you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, and any men that are here that are in relationships with women and you want a woman that can really help to teach them how to be fully satisfied in their relationship with you, I'm your woman for that. So send all your women my way.
Okay, good stuff. Danielle. Oops, wait a minute. Danielle, coming to a city near you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. I have my podcast is Authentic Points of View podcast by Danielle Boer. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Authentic Points of View podcast, or my personal one is just Danielle Boer. Instagram is Danielle Boer 82. And I'm coming to YouTube now, so my episodes are going to be on audio, Spotify, all those things, and YouTube. So I'm really excited about that. So
perfect. If you would, I guess the recruiter who reached out to you guys, send him your YouTube link, and he'll send it to me, and then I'll have my guy put it in the description of the show so that you can get some.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Jury, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, my website is jurylove, JURILove.com, but I do Facebook, Jury Love, and then Instagram is at JuryPanda, JURIPANDA. And my book, A Gift from Adversity, is available on Amazon, and the podcast, A Gift from Adversity, I have about 69 episodes, people are talking about adversity. But I just want to really thank you for having me, and then being honest with me, and then being honest with everyone in your audience, and then have a chance to speak on this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And show us what your book looks like one more time, just so they can see it here.
Check it out.
This is my book.
Very good. A Gift from Adversity. You can find that on Amazon. Overcoming sexual abuse, domestic violence, bullying, and homelessness.
Wow.
Wow. Shout out to Jury for coming out of that. Okay. That is going to do it for the 7th episode of the #HowToRelationship podcast. We'll see you guys next time.